A debate over the new health care program dubbed Obamacare to the federal deficit. Issues dividing elected leaders here in Washington are numerous. Anand Naidoo is here to take a look at one issue whose impact is being felt around the world. That is the debt ceiling. Anand.
Elaine, the United States collects money by selling Treasury Bills, which we call debt. These are basically bonds. For example, you could buy a $1,000 security for $990. The extra $10 is your interest. After a year, you get $1,000 back. If the U.S. government defaults, trillions of dollars of these bonds are in jeopardy. Consider this. There are about $5.6 trillion of Treasury securities held by people or countries outside the United States. That's about the GDP of Sweden, Switzerland, Saudi Arabia, the Netherlands, Turkey, Indonesia, and South Korea combined. And a default on these treasuries would disproportionately impact two major countries, China and Japan. That's because these two countries are the biggest foreign holders of U.S. debt. All this brings us back to one key issue, the U.S. debt ceiling and all the problems that could be created if it isn't increased. So what is the debt ceiling? Why not just raise it, and how high can it go?
The United States is one of only two democratic countries in the world where the executive branch of government requires approval from lawmakers to borrow more money. The other is Denmark. So what is the debt ceiling?
Well, the debt ceiling is the capacity of the United States to borrow money to fund its activities, from the space program to Social Security checks to road building to financing the military. So really the Congress has already voted to expend money, and the debt ceiling is simply a recognition that we're going to borrow the money to cover what Congress has already spent.
The United States Congress has raised the debt ceiling 78 times since 1960. Denmark, incidentally, raised its debt ceiling in 2010, the only time since adding the law in the 1990s. The U.S. Treasury normally wants the debt ceiling raised when it believes it will run out of money to pay the country's outstanding debts. So does that mean that the U.S. spends more than it earns and is effectively bankrupt?
The United States of America is not broke. The federal government is not aligning what it spends with what it's taking in. That could be fixed easily. It could be fixed, for example, if people that make over $100,000 actually pay Social Security taxes. They don't pay anything on that extra, so higher taxes. Or cut back on expenditures, or raise the retirement age on pensioners. All these things, relatively minor fixes, but hard to do politically.
If Congress fails to raise the debt ceiling, it means all that debt or bonds that the Treasury has issued will lose value. Borrowing costs will get higher, as well as creditors who will want a premium interest rate. The whole world is watching all of this, of course. A U.S. default will have an impact on other economies, and if those countries start faltering, it will mean they can't afford to purchase U.S. goods and services, and that could hit American exports especially hard.